Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Tia Kansara, the Executive Director of Replenish Earth, a climate resilience and adaptation consultancy that supports governments and businesses on their ESG strategy, risk and investment. Replenish Earth is focused on ecosystem restoration with a multidisciplinary approach to creating positive impact on Earth, including and not limited to education, ecotherapy, physical and virtual, eco-products, and ecofuturism. As an organization, we focus on the journey to eco-alignment, meeting people, organizations, and governments where they are, and helping them to transition towards regenerative ecosystems. Replenish Earth has advised over 120 businesses and 90 governments on our strategies to transition away from fossil fuel and help design business models, products, and services that provide a net positive impact on the environment. We've given millions an immersive multisensory experience of nature with our exhibitions, our conferences, retreats, and online events. And we've also created foresight tools to develop moonshots for executive leadership and created thousands of jobs for those who are interested in the Replenish ecosystem. The population of the UK has experienced the national regulations for social isolation during the multi-wave pandemic that we've globally experienced. The economic cost to the UK government has paid to support businesses, workers, household incomes, and has risen to approximately £280 billion, which is expected to rise another 120 billion by the end of this year. The magnitude of the recession caused by the pandemic is unprecedented in modern times. And the UK government's GDP declined 9.9% last year, with the steepest drop since I think consistent records were taken from 1948. And during the first lockdown, the UK GDP was about 24% lower. Although, economic activity has picked up over the spring and summer, and we're expecting to see that again, reflecting on the economic recovery that we need to have, we're going to have significant effects from the public finances. Tax revenues are falling, government spending is increasing, and the UK government's budget deficit, basically the difference between spending and revenues, is also expected to reach a peacetime record this year. Government debt, the stock of its past borrowing, is increasing as the government borrows even more to fund its spending. Additionally, the IMF estimates that the cumulative cost of the global economy will rise to something close to 22 trillion pounds, unexpected but incredible, by 2025. And the World Bank has also, in a press release shared in June 2020, that they're also expecting the recession to be the biggest recession in the world since 1870. So what are we expecting? What are we expecting from this pandemic? Well, of course, incredible amounts of low employment. Unemployment levels are going to be going through the roof. We're expecting that 16 to 64-year-olds who are economically inactive will rise considerably. We've taken a number of these experiences, you know, to test out and trial alternative experimentations in a decentralized blockchain type technologies like crypto assets. We've seen a rise in the investments of those. We've also seen a drop in air pollution. We can expect to see even more pandemic denial use of the vaccines, but also an increasing denial of the climate, even though we've had direct messaging from the likes of very influential investors such as BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, who's laid out quite an ambitious plan to combat climate change by pushing companies like his own to make explicit how their businesses will survive as the global economy works towards eliminating greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. So really, I think what's, you know, amongst our sort of list of expectations is the impact that something like the pandemic can have on our mental health. And this week, at World Happiness Week, we can really explore a variety of talks that teach us about nature deficit disorder, which was coined by a journalist in 2005, Richard Love, who proposes that direct exposure to nature is essential for the physical and emotional health of both children and adults. Nature deficit disorders isn't really regarded as a medical condition by the association's, you know, classification for American psychiatric, you know, medical terms and coding. But I think what we're experiencing in our times today is an exposure to a lack of natural environments. In the UK, for example, we are not allowed to go beyond a very specific radius of our homes. I appreciate that happens across the world as well. And, you know, much of nature draws from that sort of theory of the exposure to the natural environment that can be cognitively restorative. It can reduce stress and promote a sense of place. Empirical evidence from numerous fields of study, including environmental psychology and landscape architecture, public health, supports that we can have increased human well-being and, you know, decrease chronic health issues like stress and depression, cardiovascular diseases, to you know, to counter those by interacting with nature. A lot of studies actually demonstrate that the exposure to nature can improve our cognitive functioning, decrease attention deficit disorder, promote self-awareness, increase the number of risks that we take just by being outdoors. And the meta-analysis demonstrates that wilderness challenge programs like camping and scouts and other sorts of psychological well-being type programs can increase the opportunity for us to connect with nature in ways that we may not have done beforehand. The expanding body of scientific evidence suggests that nature deficit disorder contributes to a diminished use of the senses, attention difficulties or conditions of obesity and higher rates of emotional and physical illnesses. But that's countered by ecological literacy and the stewardship of the natural world. So there is this sort of epidemic of inactivity that we're experiencing at home as we're, you know, working from home, or increased sort of numbers of us are experiencing this isolation. And I think from something close to 2008, people have lived in, you know, increasing amounts of urbanized environments that have marked huge moments in, you know, human history where we've reduced the kind of connection to nature, but also have missed our opportunity of really having nature in our neighborhoods, in our backyards, in our buildings, in our cities. And I really do believe that cities are the engines of that biodiversity, the connection of us and the environment, the nature-rich society. So a lot of the research that I found relating to this was talking specifically about this sort of nature of ecotherapy, and how by connecting to nature, we can almost supplement this treatment of the environment subsequently with connection that we've created through these immersive programs. In 2015, an incredible research project looked at addressing nature deficit disorder with a mixed methods pilot study of young adults attending a camp, moving away from sort of rapidly urbanized environments and putting them in a social group, experimenting on them, and really conducting these sort of mixed methods pilot studies to appreciate how 4 weeks, a month of a digital detox could really increase the exposure that people have to the environment to improve their health, and to actually improve the connection between their health and environmental stewardship. Of course, some of the challenges that have been experienced are related to that kind of meta-analysis, or using something like the happiness index. Recent meta-analysis demonstrates that, across about 8,000 subjects, the research that was done by Capaldi et al., that a persistent small effect size of the correlation of nature connectedness measures of happiness can actually really produce positive emotions. And these are interlinked with relationships with psychoevolutionary models, which state that interacting with nature initiates a series of psychological, cognitive, behavioral responses that result in stress recovery and physiological relaxation, positive effects that reduce negative effects like stress. And these kinds of models also correlate with the physiologic sort of findings of the studies of the Japanese research on forest bathing that have documented lower cortisol levels, lower sympathetic activation, really appreciating what we can gather from parasympathetic nervous activity in nature compared to urban environments. There was an incredible study that was done by UCL Center of Advanced Spatial Analysis on cortisol levels in Tottenham Court Road, and a kind of a brain scan was done in situ whilst members of the public were walking down Tottenham Court Road to really understand the impacts of stress in the urban environment. Further studies have really looked at some really interesting social media and sentiment analysis, and recognized that through the work of Palomino et al., that social media can really help us to appreciate environmental psychology in line with this sort of green exercise and nature-based activities that can improve our health, especially for those that have a high sedentary lifestyle, sitting at your desk, staring at a screen for 12 hours a day. This kind of lack of outdoor activity can increase obesity-related ailments, such as diabetes, and nature deficit disorder can actually motivate organizations like the National Trust, whose mission is to preserve these places of historic interest and natural beauty, to propose programs to ensure that every child has the chance to develop, and every adult has the chance to develop personal connection with the natural world. What we're experiencing in this sort of nature deficit disorder is this lack of connection to our mental state. And so we're experiencing even higher amounts of mental disorders that are a consequence of this sort of, work from home, being in buildings all day long, in urban environments where there is a reduced number of pockets of regenerative biodiversity. Nature plays an incredibly crucial role in our daily environments, going to school, playgrounds, commuting, Sunday picnics, evening playtime, what have you, that sort of natural environment becomes an identity in our memories associated with people and buildings and things that we have around us as we're passing through. Buildings are usually designed and constructed to address these multiple objectives, such as shelter and comfort, productivity, security, safety, socioeconomic status, and what with the advent of air conditioning technology in nearly 80, 90 years of the use of air conditioning, we've seen this new dimension added to building design and added to our well-being, added to our thermal comfort, that the global sort of dependence on these fossil fuels and environmental impacts of global warming can have an increased amount of impact that can affect our mental states. 90% of our lives are in built environments. And the building sector is considered one of the highest energy and resource intensive sectors in the world. 40% of the world's primary energy use is consumed indoors. The building sector also has the highest carbon footprint, with increasing awareness about the climate change, about the climate changing and the emergencies that are related with our environmental concerns. A lot of effort has been made through scientific and policy initiatives to reduce resource efficiency, reduce the inefficiencies of resources. And since humans spend something close to 90% of our time indoors, and I would say almost 100% of our time indoors during the pandemic, indoor environment quality plays an enormous and important role in human thermal comfort, health and productivity, the cost of which and the reduction of which is incredible. And therefore till the sort of the mid 20th century, almost the entire focus of building design was maximizing energy efficiency, cooling factors, and not really being too concerned with environmental awareness or focus on thermal comfort. To step back into sort of nature deficit disorder, modern cities have really had this sort of rapid urbanization effect. And what we've understood from the sort of intricacies of that urban structure and complexity of diverse factors have been that urban health, has been one of the hottest topics. At first, it's necessary to take a quick look at the sort of definition of urban health and well-being. When you're walking through the urban infrastructure, there are huge public health impacts, not just to humans, but also to wildlife. The quality of life in urban areas has been decreasing, and we can measure that through happiness and life satisfaction, quality of life. The combination of this sort of urban health and well-being shapes the concept of our satisfaction of the city. But the question is, are cities really in alignment with what we want from our environments, from our connection with the environment? We've had, a drop in productivity during furlough schemes in the UK. We haven't been able to gain the therapeutic impacts of these green spaces and urban environments. There are huge problems with air and noise pollution in cities through rapid urbanization tactics of, scale, sprawling cities. So the sort of biological and chemical factors in spatial planning have become the major sort of factors in measuring the levels of quality of life in urban environments. And this sort of really very much depends on the nature of the kind of deep mental and spiritual connections that we want to be able to create. So whether they are in urban environments or they are in our opportunity to increase activities, really in conclusion, that kind of eco alignment and therapy really gives a nature-based opportunity for those activities, such as gardening and walking, cycling, nature-based arts and crafts, are really an opportunity to get your hands dirty, and compost, conservation tasks, those that will allow us to really recognize not only care for ourselves but care for the planet, anything that involves spending time and interacting with nature. So what if nature could heal? And what if our time being in nature can increase the opportunity of health in our biome, in our biome, you know, an extensive, you know, relationship with the wild? And I'm not talking about, you know, rectangular places that we call parks with a line of trees, but what could communities really integrate from the ideas of ecotherapy and nature deficit disorder to develop these kinds of cultural practices that can help us nurture and nourish the planet? You know, a growing body of evidence shows that spending time in nature and green spaces can, you know, improve our body's sort of response to stress and reduce the sort of levels of depression that we're experiencing during the COVID, and improve our moods and self-esteem. So, you know, is there an opportunity for you to get out there and really experience nature in ways that you haven't beforehand? Is there a way that you can encourage that to be in your landscaped environments at home whilst we're in lockdown? You know, let us know what you think. Not only from the built environment, but you've also got the landscaping indoors. You've got an opportunity to completely change the environment that you're in. The economy is most likely going to be continuing to cause us stress. And as that economic burden comes into the hands of us as members of the public, there's an increased responsibility that we have towards our own mental and physical and spiritual and physiological health. You know, you can find out a lot more about this on our Instagram page. There's a Rise to Replenish challenge you can follow. Take a picture of the QR code. You will be directed to our pledge. We invite you to pledge to replenish Earth yourselves in your own organizations and, you know, as individuals. There's a little application that you'll get access to. You can find out more about the work and events that we've planned and hosted through London Climate Action Week to the Global Alliance of Banking on Values. And I hope that you'll send me a message and let either Replenish Earth or myself know, you know, what your thoughts are when it comes to your own nature deficit, your own relationship with nature. How is it affecting you being during this pandemic, living at home and only spending your time within, you know, a very small vicinity of a radius around your home? Thank you all very much for your time. I'm sure you've got lots of questions on this, and you're welcome to email us and let us know what you think. Thank you all very much, and speak to you soon.
Cherish life today, cherish life today, only one way. The fight against coronavirus is putting us to the test. All it takes is a simple choice that makes the difference between life and death. Let's do our best to stay healthy every day, so we can help each other keep sickness away. Yeah, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. Oh, there's one way we know. Do it with our neighbors round the world. It's one way, one way, one world, one world. Social distancing we say to keep the virus at bay. It's one way, one way, one world, one world. Keep your hands clean. It involves you and me to let go away. We are one way. 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 Well, we might be apart, we're connected. Even if for now it's good we stay isolated. The more we join in and share this challenge together, there's no storm that we can't weather. Let's try to keep sickness away. Yeah, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. Oh, there's one way we know. Do it with our neighbors round the world. It's one way, one way, one world, one world. Social distancing we say to keep the virus at bay. It's one way, one way, one world, one world. Keep your hands clean. It involves you and me to let go away. We are one way. 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 Oh, cherish our life. relaxed. It puts a smile upon my face, so relaxed. There is no time to waste, I am so relaxed. It puts a smile upon my face, so relaxed. I am so relaxed.
I was raised in the 80s, bricks in the place. These days were a madness, nights were just crazy. Looking back, grateful for the man that it made me. All about the future, but I reminisce daily.
Looking on the wall means something to me. Hanging in the wood makes me feel better.
Wish I could go back.
Long till I don't see the people living with them trouble, y'all. Long till I don't see the people living with them trouble, y'all. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Selector, y'all.